Okay, I think last workshop we did, I hit the record button, but then didn't finish. So I had to re-record it by myself. So this time I actually hit record. So we are ready to go. Okay, so here's our first slide, how to use artificial intelligence. Please just let me know if you can see the actual, okay, that's good. Just so I know what everyone else is seeing. Okay. Okay. So this is presented by the Brain Injury Association of Waterloo-Wellington. It is a part of a grant that was awarded by the Ontario Trillium Foundation, and it is for the use of artificial intelligence, AI. Okay, so today we will be going over an overview of the prompting guides. We're going to be going over applications and purpose. So this is where we're going to get feedback. We'll ask some questions. We'll get people to give some direction on whether they want to see less or more, whether they want how much information they want, whether they want something in two parts, a written document and a pictorial document, so that we can get this up and running by the end of the month for everyone to access. We're going to general review that like we always do on safety, just so that people are aware of how to use AI, not be too afraid of using AI, and do it without worrying about what information they're putting out there into the universe. We're going to pick a project. So we're going to spend part of the time reviewing, and then if there is something that you would like support with, a project or a walkthrough of a certain application that utilizes AI, we're happy to support you completing that component. Okay, so we can get started. Okay, so the list of the prompting guides that we've been working on through the last, for the several months actually, have been for the use of working through the disability tax credit, for the Ontario Disability Support Program. People have asked for use for helping support them with information or getting ready for doctor's appointments. We went through a workshop on financial literacy, where we used it to look at how we can enhance our knowledge or get ready for an appointment for investing with the bank, things like that, or how to find financial advisors. We have a component where there's a question, and this is one that was brought to us on how do we move forward on an application when the conversation is stuck. So there is an AI prompting guide on how to get unstuck, how to move a conversation or a thought when we're asking AI forward, so it's not repeating the same thing or looping in a particular answer, right? We looked at cover letters and resume writing as an idea to put in there, and general letter writing. So, you know, if you're writing to Parliament, if you're writing for advocacy, if you're writing to a friend, things like that, if you want to use it to help you get started or help you produce ideas or help you give a format on how to proceed. Okay, so those are the things that we've done. Some of the other pieces that we looked at are, when we started this, was looking at it and how we use AI on our home devices. So we have a prompting guide where you can look at the different ones that are available, but also what you can say to get your particular home device to do what you want it to do, and some of the neat things that maybe people aren't aware of. We've looked at specifically a lot of work with ChatGPT, some with Canva, but we also have a list of other different AI applications that you could use that are used for things like creating songs. So if people like writing music or have a difficult time doing that now, you can create lyrics and put it to someone voicing those lyrics, vocalizing them. It's really neat if you happen to give it a go. You can also look at creating podcasts. You can look at creating videos, or even different elements of art, right? So those are things, and we have a list in the guide where you can find ideas of AI applications. And then, we're going to look at today what your ideas are, what your needs are, and what you'd like to create, and see if we can mold that into the prompting guide as some of the responses. Okay, so we want to look also at the general steps. So part of the prompting guide and part of the feedback from today is to look at the general things that we do when we use any type of AI application. And if we're stuck, we can also just ask, right? So if we have a question in our head going, oh, I don't know what to say next, we can turn that into a response. So we want to keep that in mind too as part of the training, that we can say, hey, Google, or hey, whatever the application is, I'm stuck, provide some more suggestions, right? Okay, so these are, this is how we're going to proceed. These are some of the ideas. Okay, again, these are the steps. These are the general steps. Okay, it's the idea of choosing the task. Some people come with an idea already in mind. They want to create a letter. They want to work on an application. They want to research a topic. So we look at that. Often we get stuck on what AI application to use. So we can prompt our search engine to tell us what AI applications are best to use for a specific resource. Okay, and so we've gone through this each workshop, but again, it's the idea of picking the AI application that best suits the task type you're going to do. Giving prompts. If you're stuck on a prompt, give a general prompt and then work from there. Being specific will yield you a more specific answer. And revision. Revise what your asks are until you get what you were looking to receive. Okay. Again, we talk about saving our work, being safe, but using this as a tool, as a resource, almost like a library that we were so familiar with using before. Okay, so we're going to take a look at the guide. So I'm going to stop share on the particular, on this particular PowerPoint. And we're going to move along into sharing the guide to get folks' feedback. It is in written format, which means we're going to turn it into pretty pictures soon. But we want to do so once we know what people want. Okay, once we create it, we can modify and change it, but it's easier to do it in one shot. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to stop share briefly. It's going to be a Word document, okay? So I'm just going to do it like this. Let's get to the beginning. Okay, I do this.
And then do window first, and then this. Sure.
Okay. What I do want to check to see is if what people are seeing. Can you see?
It's narrow because you've got half the screen. So it's cut off. So it's on the wide. Yeah.
Yeah, does that work? Okay. So I don't see I won't be able to see you anymore right now. but we'll go through the toolkit. So what I'll ask is that someone can moderate if there's questions, and to give me the heads up, and we can then ask the questions. Okay. So the toolkit is right now is in written Word format. So there's a few things that we can do is we can keep a written Word format for those that want to download text, and then we can create a nice pictorial format of the prompt toolkit that is a little more condensed and a visual narrator. Okay, so basically this is what the toolkit would do. It's used to adapt to different situations to help you go through different needs. So if you're working on an application, like we said before, or attending a doctor's appointment, or wanting to research how to do something, and giving you a checklist or feedback or prompting on how to navigate a system, or even like if you want to know how to do your taxes or how to file your taxes, you can ask these questions, and it would allow you to come up with information. Okay. So these are some of the examples, and we've posted these. If folks want or think this is sufficient, that's great. If folks want different ideas put in place, we can do that as well. Oh, okay. It looks like the projector isn't there, so we're going to get our, oh, yay, look at that.
Thanks, Donna.
Thank you. Okay, so everyone can see online the prompt guide, and we can see the point of what, yeah, so my cursor is blinking at the what can artificial intelligence do. I want to see if for our folks here.
Also zoom in on the document.
Yeah, it's a little blurry.
Sue's got her hand up there.
Oh, that's better, eh?
I think Sue might have a question.
Okay, so Sue,
Make comparisons.
comparisons. Okay, that's a good one. I'm going to make a side note, okay? That's a great one. So it could be comparisons of application. It can be comparisons of text. It can be comparisons of, Sue, what did you have something in mind?
I put Trump versus Hitler.
Oh, we're starting strong.
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, what did you say? Oh, okay, so
Trump is worse.
I'm going
You
to
might
put
not
that in
wanna
a more
use
general
that.
context and say, you know, comparing different political parties or comparing different
Yes.
government systems, right?
Yes.
But a
that would be-
comparison on information or systems, okay?
Yes.
So how about we do that? Yeah, no, that's great. That's a good example. It got you to indicate what your actual need was, right? So we're going to do that. Okay. So we'll add in that. If anyone thinks of anything in the next week, feel free to write in when we will add that. We will incorporate it in the next week and have a pretty product for everyone going forward. Okay.
How about comparing
In
one minute?
the
how about-
next,
Stefan's also coming through.
okay.
Sorry, how about comparing one medication over another?
Okay.
Comparing medication tips and applications. There we go.
Okay, and it looks still along the line on comparisons, right? Of tips, of applications. Okay, that's a great thing to put in. Thank you.
How to's.
How
Like
to, yep.
I wanted to propagate a plant.
That's a great example. Thank you. We are going to include that. We're going to include all the examples or all the ideas, but that specific example is a really good general neutral one that'll work like over time too, right? So it'll hold well historically in historical reference. So that's a good one. We have a section in the prompt guide, and this might be more for the written text component, and then for the pictorial component, we might simplify this a little bit. But these are some of the common terminology or phrases that are included to get people started, especially if you haven't worked with AI at all, and you're in this, maybe you're coming to the association for the first time to learn and haven't been able to attend the workshops. Maybe this is a great way to get started. But these are some of the listed definitions, right? So we know we've talked about generative AI, we've talked about machine learning. Prompts are that's kind of the phrase on how we navigate artificial intelligence now. We talked about voice activated. If there's any other definitions that you are thinking about or you've come across and you want to include, let us know. But this is one that we've compiled to date. Okay, it's not exhaustive, but it is a start.
Sarah had connected to the plant idea using the photo function of AI.
So the great thing about this project is as time goes on, we can create appendices on prompting guides if they come up and are of use to folks, if people find it helpful, that those can be created and uploaded as time goes on, right? Get started, we can have things like this. Okay, that's a great one. Thank you for that example. Okay, the next component, again, if you think, as we're going through this, if you feel that a definition should be included, let us know, okay? We will have a safety component in the use of AI. And what we'll do prior to launch is we'll actually use AI to vet AI and search the internet to look at new safety concerns with the use of artificial intelligence, okay? We're primarily focusing on information sharing, but there are other components of artificial intelligence that look at, say, vehicle use, things like that. That isn't necessarily one of our topics here on our workshops, but also is included in safety. For the purpose of this toolkit, we are looking at general use of data sharing information, okay? So if folks, if you think one,
Just try to read the.
oh, I'm sorry. In the pictorial format, we might just have a few phrases to kind of garner attention, but in the written text document, we'll keep all of this full content, okay? So we want to say protect personal and private. In the pictorial, we'll probably not get into the words or the description of it. We'll just leave the heading. Avoiding scams and fake AI tools. And maybe what we want to do is give you the idea of how to prompt a Google search or search engine to list verified email or AI applications, so that if you're ever in, we want to teach you to keep that question in the back of your mind: is this fake or real? Right? Is this a scam or not? Maybe the prompt should always be, Google, hey Google, or hey, whatever your search engine is, please verify whether this is a safe application, right? Or a safe tool. As we venture into new technology, there's the good and the bad. So we always have to be aware of the majority of people are creating products because they want you to purchase them and use them, right? But then there's always a faction of people that create the scams because they want to take something from you, right? So it doesn't matter if it's technology or back in the day with the good old fashioned bank robbery. it's there's always the good and the bad. Okay, so we have to be cautious. Okay. The idea of understanding what it can and can't do, you know, the idea of it's there for brainstorming. Now, as AI progresses, we've noticed that when we are users using it, we inform future changes to applications, right? So if we're saying we need better saving tools or document saving tools, we've noticed that AI has taken that into account, and different applications and the designers have included these types of things to it because they want us to purchase their products, right? Okay. Again, the safety reminder is always that you are the gatekeeper of your personal information. Always double check what you're saving and where you're saving your work. Okay. We do have the how to start using AI. And I think in the pictorial guide, what we will end up doing is having just a general tip page, which would say be specific, ask follow-up questions, revise. But for the written document, if people love reading through things, we can do this. We'll write it out. The other piece is that in the written format, you could throw this document into AI and ask for a summary, right? So, there's some cheat codes. Okay. But does anyone have any other types that they have found when they've worked through the workshops on tips to get results that we could add in or include? Maybe asking the question off the top, maybe you need time to think about it. But if there's any section for tips, we could, or what you'd like to see. Okay. If you think of it, just let us know. Okay. We include a section that's the steps. And again, in the pictorial, I think we're going to give a very simplified, start with a task, seek the type of application that best fits, right? If you're writing a song, you're going to want to use an application that it fits with songwriting. If you're doing research or search information, you're going to use an application that tends to do that. Okay. If you want to create something with pictures, you're going to use an application that is good with the graphics. Okay. These are some of the examples. Okay, so these are the steps that we've continually used, and I've put on every workshop as the source or the way. If you found that this step process is, say, too long, maybe redundant, or maybe you find a different step prompting or step guide a little bit more efficient, feel free to let us know, okay? Sometimes working through it a few times informs us better, right? Okay.
So I'll put in the chat here. I used to type one question at a time. Now I enter multiple questions and I get more relevant results.
Okay, so here we go. I'm going to put in the step section, the tip, multiple questions. In one of the appendices, there is, we did take a look at one of the suggestions, which is how to yield different answers from AI. So that in here, we can look at a tip and we can also put that in the prompt. Okay. Okay, so this is a try new things little sheet. If we're doing this in the pictorial, we probably won't add that in. It'll just remain in the written document. This this component to the importance of saving. This piece I'm actually going to run through AI again because we've noticed that as we've worked through things, there have been like changes. That's how fast things are
So
happening.
Sue has her hand up here.
Yes, Sue.
I found that I needed to say I was in Ontario, Canada, because I got a lot of American research, and
Yeah.
it was very helpful to put in the plants when I was Googling about the propagating.
Okay, so include location for specific information. You know, thank you for saying that, because I think I take that for granted. So, but I've noticed too, when I've entered in information, sometimes I get data or research or statistics for a different location. Or, when we've worked on, I think, Sue, when we've worked on applications, we have to be specific to Canadian applications as opposed to it propagating, say, American, because of the
Along the line with what Sue said, I usually always put in my location in every question that I ask so that I get relevant results for what I want.
Awesome. This is great. Thank you. Okay. Editing, anything else that you think would be helpful to utilize in the saving docs process, or keeping your work, or holding on to your work? Again, some of the applications allow you to do that. I know, let me just see if it's in here. Sometimes if you're working on your phone, a screenshot of your search results is a good way of saving. So I might actually include that, because it's different when you work on a computer, right? Sometimes when you're working on a different piece of technology, you have to utilize it different. How are folks saving work currently when they do it?
Copy and pasting into a document.
Okay.
But then if you're doing it from your phone, you have to, it'll have the question and all the little prompts in there too. So you have to filter that out.
Yeah.
You have to delete that.
You have to delete it.
Yeah.
Okay. Some people have been emailing depending on the device they're working on. If they don't have a folder to save into, some people are copy pasting and then emailing the results, so that they can access it on a different device, right? So if you're going from your phone and maybe you don't have, or iPad or something, and
I take pictures of everything that I see. Plus, I forget on the Google AI app how it's done, but on ChatGPT, to the bottom left of the screen, I think it populates 5 or half a dozen of your search results. So when I want to go back, let's say I searched last night, and then I would shut my computer down at night, and then this morning I get up and I want to look up what I looked up yesterday, and I can see the last 5 or half a dozen results listed.
So as you're saying that, it reminded me of something. Depending on whether it's a free version or a purchase version, there might be a difference in the saving aspect, right? So if you've purchased, say, since we're using that example, ChatGPT, it will save all your versions and search history when you log in, because you're logging into your account. And sometimes some of the free apps, it might not save.
That's interesting that you say that, because for me, I work at a place where we sell online. So I always tell people that when they buy on my website, that they can search their history of what they bought if they log in as a user, if they register, if they sign up, instead of shopping as a visitor, like other apps do that.
Yes,
So for me, I use that same principle with using AI. So when it came to, I only used the two, ChatGPT and the Google one. So I thought maybe it's best for me to be able to search the history, not just yesterday, but maybe 3 weeks ago or a month ago, if I do sign up as an account. So I took the time to register an account, register myself as a user on both ChatGPT and Google. So I hopefully, because I didn't know, I could look up old searches from way back.
Yeah. So I think it's also a question of how we're using it. If we need a general search, but we don't want to track or keep it anywhere, we probably are good with the free. But if we're using it on a project where we want to come back and forth, we can save to a document, or we can utilize a login function.
Yeah, but not even just that. Just for me, because my memory is so bad after my stroke that it's like, even from last night, try to remember what it was. Don't ask me. I won't be able to tell you. But if I have with the history option, then I can go back and look it up that way.
Yeah, that's a great point. We have a question in house, in room.
Are there any differences on the applications if you're using sorry, let me start over again.
Sure.
You can use your phone, you can use your iPad, you can use your computer. Are there different steps for each one? Are they similar or?
Okay, so that's actually something to look into as far as application. That's a good point. It might be good to look at a comparison chart or a point to see moving between different apps, because depending on, like, some of the applications don't vary too much and some will vary, right? So that's a great, because if you we would have to look at the most used applications and run a comparison, right? But we wouldn't be able to speak to every application. But the idea would then be to say, look, when choosing an application, look to see how it changes across devices, right?
Sorry for jumping in. It doesn't, because I know, because I've done it before, and because I'm registered. I'm a registered user with ChatGPT. So if last night I looked it up on my laptop, and this morning I opened my ChatGPT app on my phone, I can see what I looked up last night on my laptop.
Yeah, ChatGPT is great for that. It tends to be it's a simplified
it crosses over.
Screen. Yeah, and it crosses over. A different application
might not.
Yeah. Yeah, but chat has been good in the sense that it's visually not very complicated. It is not overwhelming to look at, and it does function well across devices, right?
But it would be interesting for someone that uses the free version like me, but as a non-registered user, whether or not it still works. Because for me, I don't. I signed up with an account, so it'd be interesting for someone to try it as a non-registered user last night, one night on the laptop and the next morning on the app to see if it works. I don't think it will, but.
Yeah, that's a good one to look at. We can also pose the question in AI to see what it yields, right? Yeah.
I noticed too with ChatGPT, I had a huge prompt for a meal plan to come with different creative ideas, because I can't come up with any more meals. I feel like there's nothing else to eat. So I found this prompt online and I started using it. And in the top corner of ChatGPT, I can't speak to any other platform, but there was a share button and you can email it. So you can also email it to yourself and then continue on with it. So that's another option in like that save kind of feature.
Yeah, some of them come with like, do you want to turn this into a PDF document? Do you want to turn this into a one-page, like synthesize it into a one-page? There's a copy-paste function in some of them, or a link. It creates a link that you can copy and then send to either text or email or whatever. So that's a good point too. We'll add that in. Okay. And then I think this part we might do when we're saving. We'll do a pictorial component on just a quick save. Save your document. But I might modify this to be an inclusion of what to look for when saving. Right. The idea of crossing platforms or crossing different technology.
Sarah made a point here. I found when ChatGPT offered to create a PDF, the information would change from the original chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that can happen as well.
It can happen. If what I have found, and until things get used more and become better or more efficient, if you really like the way something is worded, save it in the moment.
You can
Right?
also tell ChatGPT to make a one-pager with the exact content that is there.
Exact wording or
Exact wording. Don't
yeah.
change the wording, just make it into a one-pager.
But if you're not used to using the prompts yet and you like something,
It's like telling someone how you like your coffee.
Yeah.
Do you like it with 2 creams and 1 sugar or 15 scoops of sugar? You might want to be more specific.
I like sugar. Oh, okay, 2, 3, 4, the whole cup. Great example, actually. I like the sugar example. Okay, so this is now in the guide. I went a little overboard, but we have a simplified version here, and then we have one that goes into a long list of different types of prompts. Tell me if it's useful or not. This is like a simplified version. I'll show you the prompt list. If you don't think it's necessary, we can take it out. If you like it in there for reference, it's easy to leave it in, okay? But these are some of them, you know, when you're looking at some simple starting prompts, right? Summarizing, translate, reword, checklists, explain in plain language. That's a fun one, right? That's a great one when you have a document, especially if it's there's a lot of legalese, so to speak, and you're not in that profession or within finances, right? I find that's a good one to look at, defining or breaking things down. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. Like this gets a little wordy. I wouldn't necessarily include this in the pictorial. I might include a 1 or 2 bubble graphics where it gives a prompt, right? But that's about it.
I always say please and thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice to our AI.
Yeah.
So it looks like yes. So some of them have the please provide or please, So
If you're rude to it, it'll respond in the same tone. So
Yeah.
how friendly do you want it to talk to you?
Yeah. So some of it, the prompts are like, what are like if it's if you're asking it to compile or put something together, please tends to be the certain phrases that we use. But of course, this is something you can play around with yourself. If you give a prompt that is just a very to the point, you know, sharp kind of ask, and then do it again in a different, more elaborate way and see what it gives you. That's kind of a fun little exercise. See what happens on something that's not, you know, too meaningful in the moment. Okay, so you know, if you're looking in health, this might be fine for the word guide. I wouldn't include this in the pictorial at all, because these are just examples. I think when I first started, I was going off the premise that folks needed ideas to start off with, right? Like, how do I get myself going or started, right? But I think once you use it a few times, you get used to, you know, it's that repetition on figuring out what kind of responses you receive. Okay. In the written format, we go through an example. This was to show what it looks like. Now, do people want this in the pictorial guide? Or would we rather leave that out and have it more in the
For the example.
yeah, so let's keep that in mind. We'll run through it and you can see. So this one is saying when we take the steps, what do we do if we run it through an example? So this one was writing a motivational quote. I did it because it was just a general thing. It didn't have a lot of conditions to it, right? It could vary, right? So the idea is you choose the task, you choose the type of AI application or platform. Okay. This is, and then this has the visual example of what, say, we use ChatGPT because that's the common one right now, right? When we do the appendices, we run through examples of like what Gamma looks like, what Canva looks like. If you're wanting to use one of the graphic editors, if you want to use one of the podcast like editors, we can show you that. Okay, this is the idea of the prompt. Okay, and of course you can word this however you want. Please write a short motivational quote about learning new skills. Okay, and this is what this particular response gave. Now, if I put this through ChatGPT today, as opposed to when this was first set up a couple of months ago, I'm curious as to what it would give me. So the idea is it could generate different responses, right? So you want to look at the response, evaluate if it's what you like, and if it fits your need, use it. If it doesn't, tweak it, change it, re-ask the question, okay? In this particular application, it gives you the prompt itself. Would you like a few more options? So if I read this particular example and I didn't like it, I'd be like, yeah, give me a few more. That's not what I wanted.
Are you saying that if I use Chat GPT, whatever it is,
yep,
today, and ask it to do a comparison on financial things, if I do it a year from now, I might get a different
yes.
answer based on the current information it has?
Yes.
Interesting.
Because it is a format that pulls from whatever's available. So if a new type of investment came about or a new, it would then pull from that information. Okay, so yes, it would generate a different response. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we go to the save, we go to revise and modify as needed. Okay. And then this was an example if people were stuck. So yeah, let me know if you'd want this in the pictorial, these ideas, or whether you think this is better for the written document. Okay, please take the following, I use please in this one. Please take the following motivational quote, learning some, and then place into written text to describe. Okay, and this is what it gave. This is what it indicated. Now, whether this is what you want or not, obviously you're looking. I might go look. Whoa, that's too much. That's not what I needed. Scrap that. I'm going back to my original. Okay.
Usually it'll say, do you want a simpler version of this? Or it'll almost give you that.
Yep. Sometimes it does, or you can can prompt it yourself, right? But yes, you're right. Going back to the 10 steps we had at the beginning, save and repeat, save and repeat. Or save and chuck it out. Okay, so this again was more prompt examples. I would say that this won't go into the pictorial. This will just stay in the guide because this is, but we could also take this out of the guide too if people find it repetitive. Okay. The little component here about the evolution of AI might be beneficial to keep in as opposed to the other different prompts. Maybe we leave that notation in. the idea of responsibility, and what the benefits and risks. So would people find it helpful to have benefit risk comparison,
Mhm.
a pro con, right? Benefits and risks. Okay. Bear with me while I make a little note. I would do the notes on the computer, but I'm too scared to while I'm flipping between.
Ruin the display setup?
Yeah, I don't want to ruin the display. So I'm going back to old-fashioned paper and pen here. I mean, I could go back onto the workshop conversation and do
Yes.
yeah, I could do that too.
There is a note in the chat here to leave everything in the guide and cross off what doesn't apply.
Sure, we can do a review and pull out any
Include like the redundancies.
the redundancies, yeah.
Yep. And then leave.
Yeah.
The majority of everything else in, and then we'll have both versions available.
Okay, so that's there. Benefits, risks, pros, cons. And then we have the statement about ethical use. The appendices go into the actual, some very specific asks from folks over the last couple months. And this can be, there's additional, they don't take too long to create. There's the idea of doing it in the written format and then ones with the pictorial. So this particular one, we added in, we gave the written. So, and we also gave an example of what it would look like on in picture format. Okay. So sorry for scrolling up and down. We run through in the appendices for each document the steps. We're kind of using that same format. It's a way to train our brain to kind of go through the prompts. If it's new learning for us, if we're getting quite savvy, we can go rogue and just make our own steps up. But it's set up this way so that at least when people are switching through the different appendices, they are able to have some type of structure in the format. Okay. If it's too much, let us know. We can take it out. Okay. So again, we give the chat box after we've picked a particular platform. We've showed 2 different search engines on this particular one. We've looked at typing in a response or typing in a question, a prompt. We've indicated what it looks like when you're given a the answer, and then this particular one we used. Going back to the tip about being specific on location, this one we did talk about. We wanted the Canadian disability tax credit. I learned that little bit by asking AI and not being specific. And it gave me something completely different. Okay. So, you know, to the person who said use the location, yes. So sometimes we think about it, but we forget to include the example, right? So, okay. So this one talks about providing a checklist, and you know, in this particular format, it gave it, and I did some cut and paste pictures. I don't know if that's like seeing the cut and paste pictures for this is needed. I don't know if people find it, or we can just take that out and just show like the different prompts you can use, right? Because I feel like the information is going to change all the time, right? So maybe what we do is I leave this component here, which is please provide, and this little absolutely here's an up to date, and leave out the
Yeah, maybe we won't have to go back in and update them every 2 days, right?
Yeah. Okay.
I find that if I type something into Google, the first thing that comes up as a result is the AI.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the new thing now,
Yeah.
right? And you have to move. There's also, if you look in the toolbar bar now for Google, it has a section. So you have AI mode, you have images, you have, so it's actually created its own section now. Yeah. Right. So it's still nice that you get a choice, right? But you have to be aware that first thing is now the AI generated,
Yeah.
which is, what it's telling you is that it's searching the web for and condensing information, right? Again, we have to review it, take it with, be a little mindful that the information, we have to vet the information is what I'm trying to say, right? Okay. So that's what we'll do. I'll take out the very, very specific answers and leave some of the prompting questions. Thanks, folks. I think what I did here was do a picture. What we talked about is how things are saved in the chat. Right? We put, we showed the sidebar there, the history of the chats. If that's helpful, we can keep it. If not, I can take it out. Okay. And these are some of the other questions that you can ask. I think this, for folks that were working on disability tax credit, these might be questions that they have, right? List examples of mental functions that you can use, right? Okay. Okay, so again, I might take out the very specific answer and just leave the prompts. I'm cognizant of the time because we're at 11. Are there, if I go back to the workshop PowerPoint and we look at the list of the particular appendices, I think what I'm getting from this feedback is that if we get too specific on the answers, it'll become redundant over time. So let's look at the prompts, the ways we can ask, and the little the small paragraph response as opposed to the actual content.
Yeah.
And we'll do that for the majority of them. I'm going to scroll really fast down through this for a second to show you. There's several appendices, but I want to show you a different one that was the ask or request about how to get out of, or how to prompt ChatGPT to get out of a loop.
Yes.
Okay, I want to show that. And then what we'll do is we'll go back to the PowerPoint so that we offer some people some time if they will have a specific task, right? Okay. So we did disability support program as one. We did doctor's appointments with some of the pictorial, and I will use the feedback about taking out the very, very specific. So this is one of them. It's not, I think some of them were labeled differently appendix. So this would have been later, but I think it got popped into appendices 4 instead. But
Should you ask it what assumptions it uses or what regulations?
you can ask it that.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, ask to have it critique itself.
That's a good point.
You can ask things along the lines of, what particular biases are you looking from, or what bias lens are you looking from, or definitely ask it if it doesn't provide it does now more so than it did before, or provide where it's getting its information.
Yeah.
Provide links.
Sometimes I see that it embeds the links.
Yes.
Can everyone hear that from the ones viewing it?
I see a head shaking.
Yes.
now.
Okay, so some people can. So the idea is,
just to have the AI critique itself, right? So ask it what biases you're looking from, or ask it to provide the links to the where it's getting its content. And then it will do that and let you know what information it's using, and then you can go back and ask it further questions from there.
So I remember when we were working through an example in the last workshop, we had looked at the Canadian dental plan versus the Ontario dental plan, and it actually provided links to both of those websites. And then you can go and verify through, in this case, it was the government's website, so it was pretty legit.
There you go.
Yeah.
You could also ask to only provide you sources from,
A specific journal article,
or peer-reviewed,
peer-reviewed.
right? Those are the fun terms.
Like
So,
the
yeah.
example Sue used about what's the difference between Adolf and Trump,
Right.
if she wanted to make sure the comparison's accurate, ask her what resources she checked using.
Absolutely.
Ask for the citations,
Yes.
right, for resources. We do want to be careful. This is actually part of the studies of AI right now, and it's coming out in the education system, and it's coming out in, I think there's one of the researchers on politics is looking at the use of AI to, although this is not particular to this workshop, but the use of AI to create polarizing political beliefs, right? So there is like propaganda. Sorry, that's the word I was trying to come up with on, on whatever viewpoint. So these are things that are happening with AI. So we want to be mindful again when, just like back in the day when we had to read texts or maybe hear it on the radio, we want to be mindful where the bias is coming from, right? If we read a newspaper, the example we used the last workshop was, if we read a newspaper, in Ontario, if you read the Globe and Mail compared to the Sun, compared to the Star, compared to the, they come from different viewpoints, and the articles will be written a little bit differently, right? So has their own voice and agenda. So we want to make sure when we are reviewing or receiving information that we're looking to see what bias is coming from, what viewpoint, and if it's credible, right?
Stefan has a hand up here.
Stefan?
Thanks. When it comes to that, if you're at a workshop and you hear that if you take potassium, it's going to fix your brain injury, and you're like, I'm not so sure about that, you can actually go into one of the AI and ask a question. And if you want to push it further, because I've done studies in research and in healthcare, you can even ask the search engine, like the AI, to only give you results for double-blind studies, which out of the regular studies and placebo studies and double-blind studies, from what I know, double-blind studies are the ones that have the most accurate and the most reliable. So you can get it to slice and dice the results to give you exactly what you want. So if you hear something like that, or if you're looking up something that's in relation to health, you can ask the AI to only give you results for North America, and only give you results and outcome out of strictly double-blind studies, and it will actually leave out those less reliable results and only give you what you want.
Right. There's other prompts. That's a good point in looking at medication as an example, because we all know that there are so many different human bodies, so many different human conditions, and one medication for one person may not be beneficial for another person and their list of conditions and just physical makeup, right? So sometimes it has to do with size, sometimes it has to do with gender, sometimes it has to do with, whether they have a autoimmune disorder compared to. So what you can use AI is to give you, I've often used this when comparing different medications. So, a very simple thing to look at, and we have so much information on, is comparing ibuprofen to acetaminophen, and what are the uses for, and what are some of the effects of. So, we know that, if someone is drinking and has a headache, right? Or you're saying alcohol, the doctors will recommend taking Advil as opposed to the other one. So there's other, whatever the case may be. Maybe that's not a great example, but I've also had it. Yeah, I've also had it where you take a look at medications, where you compare, say, an SSRI, a serotonin reuptake inhibitor, compared to a different subset of medications, or say a generic brand against, what's the other term for non-generic brand?
Branded.
A branded medication compared to the generic medication. And see what the differences are, and subsets like that. So
and you can even go as far as do that while you're out shopping. Like what I ended up doing, actually, I had my stroke a long time ago. But what I did is I was at Costco, and I took a picture of the back of the baby aspirin box. And when I came home, I took a picture of the generic baby aspirin bottle, and I put the two side by side in ChatGPT, and I said, brain injury, male, my age, how long ago, and the picture of. I also included a picture of the form that the doctor signs when you're released from the hospital, and you have to countersign it and date it when you walk out of the hospital, when I was released. And I put in my question, should I revert to the branded, the Bayer baby aspirin, versus using the Costco brand, and are the ingredients identical as far as treating my condition? And it was like, no, this is different, and you should either talk to your doctor. But as far as on comparing apples to oranges, this is two different things. And as far as from the information that we have at ChatGPT, it is not the exact same thing. So you should look into it.
So the thank you for that. So the point would be, have it compare brands, have it point out potential risks or differences to take to your doctor, right? We always want to go back to a medical professional that looks over us, but it's going to give us some information, right? It's going to condense some information, and we can use it to our advantage in that component, in that format, right? So this, I'm just going to move along, but we're going to get to that. This is a list of different ways you can get unstuck. Okay, so there's a couple of them. The steps are slightly different, where it's giving an example. And what I might change is the step 1, step 2, because it doesn't follow the same format. I might change it to example prompt, right? Question?
No, I was going to say that a good use of it is to compare, like Stefan says, between generic thing. You can also says, if I take this, should I be taking this, and this, or what are the reactions, or
right,
the
interactions
between various
medications, right? Yeah, I've also asked questions like, should it, when is it best time to use this medication? Again, if you have multiple things, just check in with a physician or pharmacist to double check some components, right? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but we want, part of it is that the idea of we want to verify information. So AI could throw something out to you. You want to review and check, right? But yes, sometimes we're informing some physicians.
Or just go ask your pharmacist as well. You can just pop in and they'll be able to give you an answer pretty quickly.
They usually go through the compendium anyway if they
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
know, right? They usually pull out the great big blue book. Now it's probably in a digital format, and they flip to the med and look at the contraindications, right? That was the term. Okay, so these are some of the ways to get out. We'll go through this one and then we will check in back at the PowerPoint, okay? So these are some ways to get unstuck, okay? Part of it is, you know, if something circles around, what can we do to provide a new or get a new outcome? So the first thing it says to do is identify what is repeating, right? So if you're unsure, but you know that it's like, it's the same thing over and over again, give it the prompt that it's giving you the same thing. We've already talked about this. Let's try a new direction. See if it, or give me a new direction. Clarify your goal. Okay. Sometimes we get stuck in our own thought process, whether it's writing, whether it's researching, whether it's, whatever it is. So we can ask for a deeper explanation. We can ask for a summary. Sometimes the summary gives us a new way to move forward. You can also use the prompts, let's start over with a new angle, or ignore previous instructions and focus on, so if we are going to follow along with the med example, maybe we did, give me information on this new medication, and it gives you all the things. And you're like, okay, I'm interested in finding out information on the contraindication with, or how it affects a person with high blood pressure specifically. Are there any studies, right? We could ask for new or alternative perspectives. That would be fun. See what it throws out. It might be so far off in left field, but it also might generate a new thought process for you, right? We could ask it to focus on a specific section. This one gave an example. I might have to make this more generic. It says, about cognitive support. So if we're looking at, say, trying a new therapy or trying a new program somewhere, we want to know how it's going to affect our either cognitive communication or cognitive needs. We might want to put that in there. Okay. I might be like, oh, I didn't know that was what you needed. So now I'm going to generate information on that. Sometimes we like something, but we need more information. So we say, expand on this particular, right? I am going to include the information on asking it specifically about, like, what bias lens are you searching from? Please critique yourself on use of or information, that kind of thing. So all the prompts talk about reframe, rephrase, focus on this. You can tell it to forget, right? You mentioned, please explain that part. Save it, but it also says if you need to reset it, right? You can tell it just to, like, forget everything we just said. Start fresh. Okay.
Or worst case scenario, start a new chat.
Yeah.
Close off your chat.
Go up to the top where most of them have new chat button somewhere on the left or the right. Just click that and it's like, and then input, start your conversation when you want it to start from.
So maybe I'll move this forward, because this is one of the other steps. Is like, when all else fails, open a new chat. And maybe what we do is we bold that, right?
But sometimes it'll also say you can't ask any more questions, like with the free one.
Right.
You'll run out of text.
So if you open a new chat, does it start from one again, or is it?
If it's saving your login,
it might not.
Okay.
You go
but we found out that it will sometimes provide you with an alternate way of using it. So it might not be able to provide like a PDF content,
Right.
but it will say, I will put this in the text box for you to cut and paste.
Okay.
So it will find a way of getting you the answer
Right.
within the limitations.
Okay.
And I will say one thing that came up in the last workshop when we were working in the small groups, and Emily and I were working through just a bunch of different ways you can use AI, and specifically we were using ChatGPT, and we were jumping topic to topic in the same chat, and it started picking up information from other topics and then looping it back in. So just keep that in mind too. If you're asking it something very specific and then you jump to something else, it could
Merge.
intertwine them
Yeah.
and make the answers very fun and maybe also confusing. So just having one chat for one specific topic versus just kind of rapid fire questioning different things, unless of course it is the same topic. If you're talking about gardening and different vegetables, it's all related. But if you have completely unrelated topics like we did, it just started getting kind of jumbled, the answers started merging, and we just scrapped it and started a new chat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When in doubt.
It's like talking to a brain injury surgeon. We just keep jumping from one thing to another, and then people are like, "What are we talking about right now?" I don't know.
Very good example. Yes, you do need to go and keep it on a. We were talking about this.
Yeah.
Are we still on this subject matter, or have we changed?
Please, please ignore the past and focus on, So we can ask it to do that, okay?
I think Stefan might have something to add here.
As far as the question on the amount of searches, either mumbo jumbo or all together, I remember about 3-4 months ago, as a registered user with an account with ChatGPT, I remember being maxed out at 3 or 4 in one go, whereas with I always forget the one for Gemini. I've done, since I started using it, over a dozen at one go in one day, like over the course of 6 or 7 hours. And I've done, I use Gemini more than ChatGPT. And a couple of days ago, I did almost close to 20 with no restrictions whatsoever.
So there will be different formatting for the different applications.
Mhm.
Some come with, like our Google search engines tend to be limitless, right? They come with whatever application. And then some of the apps, it is a business, so they are wanting you to purchase or
upgrade,
right? They give you a taste. They say, hey, do you like what you're using?
That's
if you
right.
do, come to the right? Come to the table. Yes. So we can do that. The other, the last little bit, and we'll go back to the PowerPoint, with this is that we have noticed when we've used certain applications, especially if you're working through, and a very specific example is we were working through budgets with numbers. And sometimes when we've learned the hard way that if you change a piece, sometimes it changes everything. So, making sure that the prompts are, please keep all of this information, change this point. So I put together a document for someone, and I didn't like the structure of the format. And so I said, please use all this information, the same information, keep the information the same, but switch part 1 and part 2 in the order, instead of it creating something new. Which then you're like, no, I want that order, but I want the wording, right? So we can play around with those kind of prompting. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing. I stop share on the startup prompt guide. I've got some really great notes from folks and the feedback to help guide what we're going to use for the pictorial and what we're going to keep in for the prompting. Stop sharing that. I'm actually gonna move this. I may need some help getting back to I need to screen share again. I go to window and hey, okay. Yay.
The displays really confused me too.
We figured it out. Okay, so we did that. We just took a look at the guide. So again, we had the idea of the safety. I cannot stress this enough in the digital age, as we learn how to use different things to be cautious, remain safe, and to ensure our private information isn't shared. Okay. Even folks that are the most safe with this tend to get stuck. Okay. This is the time where if there are folks that want to work on a specific project, explore a specific application or area, we can make the rest of the time available to you. Or if, as you're thinking, walking away from this, processing in the next couple of days, if you have, oh yeah moment, or ooh, that's a good tip moment, feel free to share. Okay. Whether it's through email to Lex or someone here. These are you're in a part of these workshops to create something useful for yourself, right? So if you find it useful, that's great. If you don't, why? Because that's good information for us, right? What can we do to make it more useful, right? So
I will send out something with a little feedback on what we just explored today, and just ask anything that you have to include. Maybe if by the end of the week we can get any feedback, tips. How can we make these guides more accessible to you? We would like to refine these and have these made available on our website in the next couple of weeks. So I will put Friday as kind of like a soft deadline.
Yeah.
We will start afterwards refining what we can.
If the end of this week is the soft deadline, by next week I want to have the guides out.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
up. Okay.
So whatever information you can get back to us beforehand, we will be able to include that as we refine these guides and start to make them available to you.
So my hope is that by the 24th, which is the following, not this Friday, but the next one, that they're all packaged neatly and nicely to Lex and that here to be able to disseminate or put up online.
Yep. They'll be made available online. We can absolutely print paper copies if needed, but they will be available to you in a couple of weeks, and we're just going to use your feedback to do the last finessing.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, everyone. I think we can end the recording here, and then we can open up the floor to questions, comments, feedback, or if there's something else you'd like to explore, now is the time we can do that. So we'll just end the recording, and then we will open it up. The recording.
I have to stop it.
Oh,
Okay, I am stopped recording.
It's you and Emily.